Hi, everybody. I just noticed that I needed to plug my phone in. Okay. This is 1,524 days since Richard, and there's no mistake about it, he was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. It's called a code red. I see that that's kind of getting spread around. That's good because that's the truth. This was an ordered murder. Because of the criminal trafficking, and we see what's going on right now with so many arrests. I just got a message saying that even the mayor of New York may be arrested in the next, maybe tomorrow, maybe in the next few days. Um, Very big news because uh, these are establishment, right? These are establishment, and he has a connection. The mayor of New York has a connection with P. Diddy, right? Sean Combs. And I hope I'm saying that all right because I don't know these people, right? That's not what I focus my life on, are these criminals. But now with Richard's case and Richard's whistleblowing activities, what that has led to, and he's a hero, he's an absolute hero, and he stood very firm, and they retaliated against him. Um, there was the canine cop making the traffic stop in the middle of a parking lot at midnight. Um, that was a setup by, in my opinion, with everything I know, with their family connection. It was Belen Rocha. Belen Rocha had a hand in that. Um, and that's heartbreaking. She had a hand in that. And of course, Richard was framed, set up. And, that is really shocking for people that mind their own business, do their own thing, homeschool, don't try not to think bad about other people at all. And all of a sudden, they learn that people will frame other people for criminal activity when they're a whistleblower to discredit them. And this is much more common than what we know. And of course, you see it in the movies or whatever. But when it hits home, you realize how evil it is to discredit a whistleblower. And it was all over Congress today, right? That they were um, talking about the weaponization of the system against whistleblowers. And this was a canine cop that was weaponized against Richard. And he needs to be arrested. Jesus Melendez, he needs to be absolutely, and Corzoli, right? Miguel Corzoli, they need to be absolutely arrested for what they did, um, in my opinion. In my opinion. So, um, they're given everything, they're given all this privilege. It would be very interesting to see if they are part of the Mormon congregation there in El Paso. It would be very interesting because the the common denominator of this treacherous murder, capital murder, premeditated capital murder, is that they're Mormon, and and of course that they have these businesses together. Um, they have a network, and it's a criminal network. And yeah, and you would think that the Mormon Church would absolutely respond to us, right? And explain, and also do what they need to do with their members, and publicly to separate themselves from the criminality, from the evil, very evil criminality. But that hasn't happened, and you know, the whole area there is very connected because of Romney's father. Romney's father was one of the main people of Colonial Juarez in Mexico. I think he was born there. Um, very, very political. This is all politics, because politics has to do with businesses and contracts, and of course, with Fort Bliss there, military contracts. And thank you, Danielle, for coming on. High profile criminals involving public corruption and more seem to always make the whistleblower, yeah, incredible, right? They want to discredit, and the whistleblowers can't seek justice. No, because they HRC, and that's really what I wanted to talk about today. HRC, right? Human resources. And when you're military, you absolutely understand why this is so important in this case, because in the military, you're supposed to move every 2 to 4 years, right? You're not supposed to stay in the same spot, and you're not supposed to really, especially if you're law enforcement, stay in the spot where you have all of your family and everything, because it's so easy, it's so tempting to have conflicts of interest when you're in where you grew up and you have family and businesses and everything. And but in El Paso, it seems to be just that. There's so much nepotism in this, and that only could have happened with HRC and human resources, assigning those positions to those individuals, putting them all together, organizing this criminal network. And when we acquired FitFam El Paso, then of course we received proof, we received hard evidence of this activity. So so then you have to ask, okay, even if are the generals involved? Are the senior NCOs involved? Are this right? And you see that with many of them, absolutely, absolutely, it is involved. So it explains why they have to have people stay in control of HRC, because you don't want to get orders, you don't want to be moved around, you don't want to move somewhere where you don't know anyone or whatever. Um, but you see, the network is made very, very powerful, because if you need fuel, you need a person in that can look the other way when you get fuel, um, and not have to pay for it, right? Or when you want to cross the border, you need to have someone in CBP so that, someone will look the other way while you drive your truck through trafficking. If you want to tamper with electronic government documents, you have to have people in those positions to have the access to those computers to tamper with the numbers, with the documents, and make the trafficking so much easier. If you want to steal weapons or ammunition, if you want to do that, or let's say, what about disability benefits? What about death benefits? If you want to take advantage and commit fraud with death benefits and disability benefits, you need to have somebody in the VA in order to do that. And so, um, and in this case, in Richard's case, um, especially with Chris Martin coming into picture, with Nadal Baim and his involvement getting clearer and clearer every day, you absolutely see how they traffic it, how they laundered the money, how they invested the laundered money, then and made a lot of people very, very wealthy, and how they can absolutely use that. It's almost like a bribe, for them to look the other way for criminal activity, even murder, even murder. Um, and of course, where there is, human trafficking, child sex cults, which, or just sex cults. And you see the trafficking, absolutely. This is an extension of this whole network. There's no doubt in my mind going into um, California and these freak offs, these freak offs, what they call them, and this culture, um, very deadly culture. You have hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied children that are, missing, that were trafficked, that are now mostly dead. And they're talking about all that oil they confiscated. They want to get all of the evidence. And there's all kinds of rumors going around about the drugs and the oils and all of this. I don't know, it all needs to be investigated. It's all evidence. And is that going to be in the hands of Christopher Wray, right? We have to make sure that Christopher Wray knows that we're looking at him, scrutinizing him, because he's not trustworthy at all. There's not an ounce of respectability in that man. And but there he is, and he has to be watched. We have to tomato stake him, right? We have to watch his every move. Um, and if you don't know what tomato staking is, there's this, like, if you have a child that gets in trouble, you have to say, "Oh, stay by me. You have to be with me now." um, because you're not trustworthy, right? You have to stay by me, and I have to watch you until you know how to mind your manners, right? And that was called tomato staking. So I think Merrick Garland also needs to be tomato staked. He does not have um, any any cause for us to trust him. He's just untrustworthy. The system absolutely has been weaponized, especially against whistleblowers. We saw that today on Capitol Hill in the testimony, shocking testimony. And, all of it's like a dog and pony show, right? Because nothing is done. And Congress rewards the Secret Service with more money, right, for these failed attempts, assassination attempts, their failure, and they've got so much money, right? They don't need more money, but yet they awarded them more money for their failure, and they're awarding, um, you know, the DOJ and FBI even more money um, for their weaponization. And if anybody doubts weaponization, just tell them to give me a call, because we have also been on the targeted end of it. Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, part of the Walmart mass shooting case, even though she's not a witness, she's part of it because she's a con artist. She saw the money, right? She saw the money, and she conned her way into it. Of course, she has connections with the El Paso Community Foundation, with West Star Bank, and so she was able to know what to do to get those tens of thousands of dollars wrongfully, illegally. And so there is no shortage of motives for people to become whistleblowers in El Paso. Um, and of course, there is so much corruption that the money is being, the corrupted money, the dirty money is being distributed. And so, that's kind of used as a bribe, and people are willing, especially in this economy, especially with the breakdown of morals and the breakdown of operating for the future, right? The esprit de corps, the breakdown of esprit de corps, the breakdown of loving your country, and loving your children and wanting um, to keep a country um, as free and out of debt. Look, we have so much debt now. We should have gold roads, really, literally, gold roads, silver roads. We should have crystal bridges, name it. Name your imagination for the trillions and trillions of dollars that we have spent and the trillions and trillions of dollars that we are in debt. We all of us should have, a dream world around us, right? You name it. It it's just the fraud, waste, and abuse, and we can't even wrap our heads around the amount of money of the fraud, waste, and abuse. So there is no lack of motive behind um, Richard's whistleblowing or anybody else's. And he was absolutely retaliated against, and they sanitized it. They sanitized his Feel Great Article 15 from his file, from his official file. I'm not talking about the CID one, I'm talking about his official file. They sanitized it. It's not in there. It is not in there, and they won't answer our questions, right? And getting back to HRC, Human Resources, um, who is probably the greatest HRC individual in our government? Um, and that would be the President of the United States. So, and I don't know if people realize that, but once you're president, you have power to appoint judges. You have power to, appoint ambassadors and fire FBI directors and appoint FBI directors and the Department of Justice. It's really the most powerful position when it comes to controlling who gets what appointments and where they're at. And to upset that would be to upset the entire criminal network machine that makes billions of dollars off of criminal trafficking. And so if you want to wonder why they want to maintain control of that office, you don't have to wonder anymore. It's about the appointments. It's about the appointments. It's about, um, you know, also the generals. And I heard that General Mealy already was making plans to leave the country. Um, I guess I don't know. I haven't watched all the news, but maybe President Trump alluded to arresting General Mealy, which he absolutely needs to be arrested. He absolutely has committed treason, and there needs to be the biggest, fattest um, lethal injection right in front of him. Right in front of him. Um, he is a total traitor. And you can go back and watch my videos, and I don't say that easily. I'm going to tell you right now, General McConville, James McConville, Donna Martin, Sean Bernabe, and others. I have a whole list here, a list um, of those that are absolute treasonous, traitors to this country, and have caused so much death, pain, and suffering. Um, with the wars, with the trafficking, with the security breaches of our military installations, and also with the COVID. One thing that the COVID proved, and I said it over and over again, is they could do something if they wanted to. They have no excuse now. If they want to lock down, if they want to make sure that the service members are obedient, they have the tools to do it and they can do it. And yet they let these breaches of security, with all the drug problems, with all the gun problems, with all the ammunition problems, with all the paraphernalia problems, the child porn problems, the children living in the barracks being pimped out problems, the child trafficking problems of the emergency intake center, hundreds of thousands of children, and they're unaccompanied and they're unaccountable and they're mostly dead. And they have all of these problems. They have no excuse because when it came to the mandates for this fake, I don't even believe in viruses anymore, y'all. And now my whole video is going to be blocked, but I don't at all, not at all. There's never been one, not one that has been isolated. Go check it out. It's not me. Go to Christina Massey, I think, yes, and yeah, not one, not one. Um, and now it's all coming out because of that guy in New York, that Louder with Crowder. What is his name? Louder with Crowder or something Crowder. He did amazing work, and I had caught this guy in charge of the whole New York mandate thing in New York. Having these sex orgies and I guess freakouts, while he was laughing at people for telling them that they couldn't be with their grandmother for Thanksgiving, that they couldn't visit their loved ones in the hospital, that they had to stand 6 feet apart when they were lining up to go into Home Depot or something. I remember that with Home Depot, and I just walked away. I said, "Hell no, I'm not doing this. I will walk away." Um, and because I think um, when you become a Gigi, when you become a grandmother, when you, I don't know, with my own children, you're not keeping me away from my parents. You're not keeping me away from my grandchildren. You're not keeping me away from my very ill father. You're not keeping me away from anyone. And you can't make me, you might can, undo me. You might can undo me. But you absolutely, no way. I'm never going to agree with it. And it was something that we were confronted with in 2020 looking for Richard. Of course, he was already murdered. They already had his remains. They already knew he was dead. And it's partial remains. And a lot of information is coming in about a funeral home. A lot of information is coming in about fraud for death benefits. And um, yeah, there's a lot of fraud, y'all. A lot of information is coming in. Richard's case is broken, and I have some peace with that. Um, that I haven't had for 4 years, because I absolutely know that his case is broken. That we have overwhelming evidence um, that will absolutely win in any court of law that is a fair court of law, not like these impersonating judges in the El Paso Magistrate Court, um, uh, which I should talk about, but I wanted to talk first about this whole sex cult thing. Um, that is also huge, huge that it's coming out all over. And it is absolutely what we have been confronted with for months and for years, for years. This group, this criminal group from the breakaway original response team in Richard's case are absolutely into these freakouts. Okay. And that's why it has a connection to this this whole criminal network that is connected to the culture of P. Diddy, of um, so many in Hollywood, and it includes people in high positions, like generals, like politicians, and it explains why they look the other way. Okay, because those freakouts, the sole purpose of them is to film them, is power. With that evidence, the filmed evidence, catching people on video was gave people power. And we were told when we were in El Paso that this was going on in the barracks, that they would film their own little get-togethers, and that most of the time people would stay drunk. Now, if you know different, if you think that there was something different going on in the barracks, that they weren't flush with weapons like Brigadier General Stewart told us, who needs to be arrested, my heart goes out to him, because I witnessed him being poisoned mentally, poisoned to the dark place. I saw him sell his soul to the devil. I saw it with my eyes. Him coming into El Paso, hearing the truth, wanting to help, and then being confronted and choosing the dark side, and then becoming very callous, dark and callous. I used to say that it was like in Lord of the Rings, where you have an elf and they are turned into an orc, you know. Um, and my heart goes out to his family. It's not easy saying this, but he chose it, and he needs to be arrested. He needs to be arrested. And the same thing with Sean Bernabe, the same thing with Clem Coward, the same thing with those, um, you know, Donna Martin. There's so many. And of course, you have like Lieutenant Colonel Roddick, and someone I don't mention very often that was absolutely reported over and over to me was, and to my husband, was Colonel Dauber, Richard's colonel, up to no good. And the time has come now that all of that's going to come out, and they need to be arrested. They should never be entrusted with our sons and daughters, our volunteer sons and daughters, because they're absolutely surrounding and allowing and participating. If they're not participating, they're allowing it. These sex cults, these freakouts, and the filming of them, and then the power over. And Richard turned it in videos. And, we're being told that he was reporting not just little soldiers, not just lower ranking, but some with some heavy rank. And of course, Clem Coward really is suspected, right? Because Clem Coward, before Richard's case was ever finished, he used that case, he weaponized it against a whistleblower to give Richard a GOMAR, and for something that wasn't even settled yet. And Richard was, of course, with the body cam footage. Thank God for the body cam footage and everything. Um, they couldn't. They could not with a canine cop in a parking lot at midnight making a traffic stop that is family to Belen Rocha. They couldn't make that smear stick. But yet, Clem Coward gave Richard a permanent GOMAR, General Order Memorandum of Reprimand, to destroy his entire career. Made it permanent, which is a continuous flag, which is absolutely you're done. And they started the chaptering, the chapter 14 on him. It was absolutely retaliation against a whistleblower by Major General Clem Coward. And, there are some other common denominators in all of this that that are shocking. And of course, that's with Leilani Hart. So there is no doubt. And HRC is allowing all of this to happen. Remember that. They know what's going on. They're not dumb. They have their El Paso intelligence community. They absolutely know because of FITFEM El Paso what's going on in El Paso on Fort Bliss. They know it. They know it. And they allowed and even fostered by the appointment, by the orders of these individuals to be all together to strengthen the criminal network. They are absolutely the power behind this. So who puts them into HRC? And, it's very easy to see that the Senate Arms Committee also needs to be arrested who voted for Donna Martin to get a 3rd star, who voted for Sean Bernabe to get a 3rd star. Anyone on that panel in the Senate Arms Committee that did that needs to be arrested. Because they absolutely knew about Vanessa Guillen. They absolutely knew about Richard Halliday. They absolutely knew about the Walmart mass shooting. They knew about Glendon Oakley Jr. They knew about so many other things that those leaders needed to be stripped for, not given a star for. So I also want to tell you that the communication between Team Fire and Richard Halliday and the public defender there in El Paso is ongoing, and it is shocking. Absolutely shocking. These people have no sense of duty. No sense of duty. And it also indicates that something is shaking up El Paso right now because we sense a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear. So that's, and if they arrested P. Diddy, it's a big, big sign. And if the mayor of New York, who's never been indicted before in the history of New York, I don't think so. I think he's the first one that has been indicted. And they walk him out with handcuffs. It's going to be a big signal. And why DC it has descended. Yes, let me read your. I pray DC shows power and justice, strip all evildoers of uniform and hold them accountable for Richard Halliday's murder. The criminals that they have, including leadership, should all be considered accessories to murder and be held accountable for obstruction. Oh, yeah, when, the first thing that came to my mind when Kamala said, "Can you imagine when you bring all these undocumented, illegal individuals and have to deport them, what that's going to look like?" And to me, it was like, whatever. Um, and I don't mean that, because I don't even know if that's going to be able to happen. So, whatever. But I thought to myself, um, can you imagine what is grander than that? What it would be much, much bigger than that would be when all of these treacherous, treasonous traitors are indicted and arrested. And I think that the death penalty needs to be right there on the table. That injection, the big injection, especially for Mealy, especially for Sean Bernabe, especially for um, McConville, especially for Donna Martin. They all deserve the death penalty. Absolutely. For so many different reasons. I mean, there is no shortage of treasonous acts that they have committed, that they deserve um, the death penalty. Absolutely. I mean, it, it is just that bad. It is just that bad. When you see a person that is in charge of the whole health response mandate in New York glorifying over, laughing, glorying, enjoying the destruction of people's lives, you're talking real evil there. While they're having their freak offs. And so now's the time I really am working very, very hard for Team Find Richard Halliday. We're here in our house. We're working very, very hard right now because we feel like now is the time, because I think they're really they're afraid of this change in HRC. They're afraid of the change in the HRC, y'all. Um, uh, the whole change of regime means the ability to change who's in what position, and they're afraid of that. It will expose so much more. Um, so, that I lost my train of thought, but I was like, they're really afraid of this change of HRC because that means that they're going to be out of the authority to collect the evidence, to collect and control and to sanitize and to delete and to tamper with evidence. Because let me tell you, in Richard's case and what they've done with us, they have absolutely interfered. They interfered with witnesses, they tampered with files. They were trying to even profit off of what has happened. And yeah, I think that's why it's happening right now. And so, of course, the lower end of the totem pole will be offered up, right? Like the P. Diddy's. And I believe, like the Dallas Harts, like the Leilani Harts, like James Hart, like Tavita Nusa, I think, and there's more, and there's more. Um, yeah. And I think that that's why they're descending. Well, they did. They already have. They're there on um, El Paso and Fort Bliss. So, because they're going to want to control the narrative, they're going to want to control the evidence, and there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of it. Good luck to them. But I just was writing another poem, and it was those who scheme. And does anyone know a poem called I'm thinking of Inchon, but it's not Inchon, Incap. The Incape, Inchcape, the Inchcape Bell. Um, I'm going to look it up. Oh, no, I won't. But anyway, it's from, I believe, the fourth reader of the McGuffey's Reader. If you're not familiar with the McGuffey's Reader, that's what I was doing before this all happened, is I was trying to um, help homeschool families um, learn how to use these old, uh, beautiful textbooks. Um, and one of the lessons in Inchcape, it's been so long, it's from the fourth reader, but it's a poem and it's about a rover. It's about, uh, you can call them pirates, but they're not pirates. They're called rovers. Some areas are called pirates, some areas are called rovers. And he's just a total criminal. And to make a long story short of this poem, and it's just brilliant, it's just amazing. Um, he his plots, his plans, his scheming ends up being his death knell, right? His death knell. And of course, the devil, he sinks to the bottom of the ocean because he causes, with his traps and his scheming and his plotting and everything, he causes his own death. And this is, uh, I thought to myself today, I need to get that poem up and read it because maybe I can learn some from it because my mind is different now after 4 years of this and confronting these kind of very evil, scheming, plotting individuals that are up to no good, and knowing that their scheming and their plotting and their freakouts and their you know drug laced oil and um, whatever they do, their criminal trafficking and their worse than that, um, it is really their death knell, and that is and the bell rings, and the bell rings, and it's a really a powerful thing to learn that you just have to be persistent and do the right thing and document it and document it and document it and be patient, which is the hardest thing, and try not to get angry, which is even more difficult, especially when they send agents to you in disguise, what they did at January 6th, and that came out today too. When even the general wants to come to you to feed you more lies, um, to smear your loved one um, with absolute lies, and you call him out. We called him out. We called Sean Bernabe out for that one. But just the fact that he was willing to do it, that they lied to us to our face about Nadal Baim, saying he was a nobody when he is a big somebody, right? Uh, and of course, the agents that are supposed to be your friend, that they want to paint a picture of, they wanted to paint a picture of Richard's case, um, and they were doing whatever they could to minimize the knowledge of what was going on there in El Paso and on Fort Bliss. Um, and the players are very important. And once you know this, um, so they've schemed and plotted and provided us loads of evidence. Um, they've done it against them, against themselves, because of their um, criminal nature, because of their criminal nature. And the truth wins out. And so, if you find yourself in a very unjust, terrible situation. Just control your anger. Just do what's right. Document, record, document, and be sure to send out all the, even if you get terrible responses back, and most of them are terrible responses. Look at the public defender. The public defender, um, you wouldn't believe the responses from her. It is like she has forgotten that she works for us. We're not her servants. And, we're a Gold Star family on top of that. And it's not that we want to be treated any different way than anybody else. Um, but the Gold Star deserves respect. It deserves respect. And she has none of it. And let me tell you, if any of her clients knew her true nature, they would run. They shouldn't run. They shouldn't run. They shouldn't throw their hands up. They should request a different public defender because there's no compassion there. There's no respect. There's no acknowledgement of duty. As far as, look, if you are presenting your clients in front of imposter judges and you are working with a usurper district attorney, and you have in your district a illegal chief medical examiner, I think you have some work as a public defender. And so my point is, you'll get responses back that absolutely, test your nerves, and you just need to say, okay, this is evidence. Okay, this is evidence, right? And keep going and have the faith and keep the faith. Um, and it all comes together. And I think so. I think it all comes together. And of course, like I said, Richard's case has been broken. Now it's all politics. It's all politics in the HRC. And this movement against the sex cults, the sex part, the freakouts, and all of that is an indication that all of that work for years has is bearing some fruit. And it's not just our work; it's a lot of people. And so we really are grateful, of course, to Team Farm Richard Halliday, but to other families that have worked tirelessly, and we've met a lot of them, that have worked tirelessly, and organizations that work for our veterans. You know who you are, for missing people, for those that whistleblowers that are retaliated against, um, injustices everywhere. It's not to one group. You name the group and they have injustices. So we're very grateful for all of that, and so I think uh, we're going to see some more arrests. And we're very anxious about Yvonne Rosales. Yvonne Rosales has very little time in order to assert her legal. This is the thing. The people that, and I didn't mean to talk about this, but I have to talk about this. The individuals that targeted Yvonne Rosales, that smeared Yvonne Rosales, that accused Yvonne Rosales falsely, absolutely with false garbage, was John Briggs, a usurper, Bill Hicks, a usurper, and Justin Underwood, an impersonator of a government official. That's just the tip of the iceberg of their violations. I, and speaking as a woman, Yvonne Rosales as a woman, I don't expect her to be perfect. We're not perfect people. Um, the one thing she's got, and she's got to be so grateful for it, is that she is the authentic, the real, the duly elected district attorney. The elected, duly elected district attorney. She's got that on them. She needs to pull on her boots, gird her loins. I don't know if she's a woman of faith. She needs to become a woman of faith and put on the full armor of God. Learn it. Learn it real quick. Just go look up the full armor of God. You'll get Christianity like boom with the full armor of God. Put that on and go assert her rightful position as the true, the authentic, duly elected holdover. Even her resignation, the Texas Constitution has her covered on that one because it was under duress. We know even by her signature, it was under duress, and then it's null. It's void. She doesn't have to worry about it. So she has been legally covered, and that the individuals that have been scheming and plotting and planning and trying to entrap and trying to accuse and trying to destroy and trying to unseat, these individuals are the ones that are criminals. Criminals. And I just want to encourage her on that one because she owes it to all those that voted for her. She owes it. And for her to be delaying shows some hesitation. And I want to encourage her not to be hesitant. Yes, there's risks. There's risk. Look at being a whistleblower is deadly. Being HRC, the biggest HRC person, the president of the United States, is deadly. Right? Or you sell your soul. Going out of your house, crossing the street is a risk. Everything you do in life is a risk. So that's why you need to put on the full armor of God. When you get married, when you have children, everything is a risk. You put on that full armor of God. Hopefully your partner has a full armor of God on too. And you charge the gates of hell. That's it. That's the lesson. Which means those that scheme and plot and, are up to no good. And here you are, the district attorney. You can do so much good. So much good. And I know because of our connections in El Paso, and, I was born at White Sands. I know I have confirmation that she was looking into Richard's case. They wanted to stop it. That's why we know that Richard knew information about the Walmart mass shooting, that Glendon Oakley Jr. is being looked into, is being investigated, his death. So I would never want to sit at home when I was a duly elected district attorney, where the Constitution, which to me is grace from God, right, is even covering you and any foible, empowering you to do the job of establishing justice in your community. I think what a great honor. It's worth the risk. What a great honor to be elected, duly elected. Let me tell you, Bill Hicks probably drools at the mouth for something like that. But he is so, gosh, his dirty laundry basket is so stinky. He could never be. He could never be. So, yeah, I want to encourage her. Um, that would be amazing and amazing. And then once she got in there to do the right thing. So, I didn't mean to talk about that today. I really wanted to talk about um, the connection, the larger connection with HRC and the freakouts. That's what I probably should have wrote down, the freakouts. Um, they're real, they're demonic, they hurt children, and we've got to stop it. And the HRC, it's real, it's demonic, and we've got to stop. We have got to get control over our HRC again. That means that we have to vote. And yeah, we've got to get control over who is assigning and appointing and giving orders to very valuable positions. So thank you so much. God bless you. Maybe she doesn't want to work with the judges. She probably doesn't want any part in corruption, just my opinion. It doesn't matter. When she ran for office, she knew there was corruption. She knew there were rotten judges. Rotten judges have been, since the beginning of time. Corruption in the judicial system has been from the beginning of time, and she knows it better than I know it. She swore an oath. This is why I'm trying to encourage her, because I do think she's under immense pressure, and I do think she needs law enforcement behind her. I do think she needs politics behind her. I do think, she needs a community behind her. And that's why I'm talking about it. And that's why I'm encouraging those in El Paso to be behind her and not to expect perfection, but to expect her to do her duty. Because there's some problems there. And, people can blackmail you. But you need to be able to take the bumps. And she's in politics. She knew. She knew what she was getting into. And, but the false allegations, and the targeting of her, and, they might have made a deal with her, but she's all over. They're still targeting her. So you never make a deal with the devil, you just don't. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work out because there's no ethics there. There's no loyalty there. There's no loyalty to your own word. And so, it never works out good. So whether she wants it or not, she's a holdover district attorney. And, I would, she only has till December 31st. So, I would want to absolutely, for me, Richard's name, our family name, my name, what people think, it's important. It's important. And what God thinks about me, um, I wouldn't want to miss this opportunity. I think she'll regret it for the rest of her life if she doesn't do the right thing. So, thank you, everyone. God bless you. And if you haven't written her, absolutely try to write her and encourage her. Um, because if she has the support, I think that because she's under immense pressure. Okay, there are people that don't like her at all. Um, and but those people are up to no good. So thank you, everyone. God bless.